to shit, okay? It's true.
Hey, Skull. Here we are, the Elders Council once again this Sunday. What a gorgeous day. We're back. We had a temporary ban, but we are back. It's fantastic to be back, guys. How are you doing today?
Great.
Everybody's doing good, having a good week so far. That's fantastic. We got some interesting stuff to talk about today. So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm RP Thor. Please like and subscribe to the channel. We're starting to get our viewership up, and we like that. Welcome everybody into the chat. We're pretty open with the chat. We try to keep this show as positive as possible in the sea and the swamp of negativity inside of our space right now. We don't want to tear anybody down. We'll point out the facts, but we want to build this community up. I'm joined by my brothers today, Glenn Lawrence. Glenn, introduce yourself. Glenn is an actor and doing very well, and we're happy to have him on board today.
Yeah, thank you. Yep, I'm Glenn Lawrence, actor, former military, former correction officer, former bodybuilder. You know, I'm here to help guys and chat with these astonishing gentlemen here about this amazing topic. It's going to be a good one.
Nice. Mark Daniels from Mark's Inspiration, and my good friend right there. He has a fantastic channel. Go visit him at Mark's Inspiration on Instagram and YouTube and listen to that man's story. He is inspirational. Mark, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, well, you already introduced me. I'm Mark Daniels, former amateur professional boxer, triathlete. I have a couple businesses. I started the YouTube channel about a couple years ago, and that's where I met Thor. And just want to kind of reach out to the younger men because there's such a lack of masculinity, which I've noticed through my five sons. I have 6 young kids, 21 and under. I noticed through their friends, so that's one of the reasons I started the channel, to pass on the wisdom that was passed on to me by older men when I was younger.
Boy, and we're glad to have you here too. And from halfway across the world from us in Tokyo, Japan, is Laurent. How are you, Laurent? Let us know a little bit about yourself. You're a successful businessman there in Tokyo, and you've been giving some fantastic lectures on how we think about money lately.
Oh, can you hear me? Can
Yes,
you hear
we
me?
can.
Okay. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. It's got to be morning somewhere here. It's got to be evening somewhere there. So yeah, my name is Laurent. I'm from New Caledonia. I'm 51 years old. I'm an entrepreneur in Japan. I do real estate. I do the stock market. And lately, as Thor kindly mentioned, I've been thinking about money. And the way we think about money, the conversations we have about money, we speak money. As Glenn said before, like, we spoke a different language. So I'm here for you. And
Thank you.
thank you.
Don't let him sell himself short. He's a good art. He's an author. He has a book on Amazon.com, which is short selling using Python, a logarithm, correct?
That's right. That's right. Yes.
A very good read right there. So today, you know, I was sitting here today and I'm thinking, I got this topic thrown at me last week, which is return on investment with modern women. And when you say return on investment, I used to be a PMP, which is a project management professional. So when we're working in a corporate environment, we would always present a project with a return on investment. There was so much money that was either credited or outlaid up front. And over a certain period of time, we would get a return on that investment. And it could be in, you know, there were intangible costs, there were tangible costs, there were implicit costs, and there was cost opportunities that are folded into that. And when you apply it to modern women, I started to, you know, Glenn had brought this up and he's going to talk about this in a minute, but it's very interesting. I'm not sure when I say investing in modern women, the ultimate outcome would be a marriage. In the past, even though I think all human relationships are somewhat transactional, I think in the past, what men and women would do would get together and they would say, hey, look, we're going to work at this together. And then at the end, look at what we're going to get and we'll split these spoils, right? It's good for both of us. what I'm seeing today, and even with consulting and then what I see on social media, is it's all about much more. The transactional side is much more prominent and out in the open. It's like, what can you give me? Because I need something in order just to behave as a feminine woman for you. If you can't provide this transaction, this transaction, this transaction, or this action, I can't be a feminine woman for you. And that goes right along in lines with the statistics that Aaron Clary had put together, one of the friends of the show, in his book, The Book of Numbers, The Return on Investment, Dating Modern Women to Marriage, in which only 2% of women are even willing to date an average Joe. And that's a guy sitting right in the middle, 50% of the sexual market value, making average money, only 2%. That's out of 100% of women. This comes from the dating statistics. That's women that are rated from 1 to a 10 are willing to date out of a pool of 100 men that are average, just 2. Now, not everybody's average, but what the women are willing to also do is they're willing to approach men at 4.6% of the time. So out of 100 men, 4.6 will be approached by a woman. The women obviously would like to date that man. But what I'm getting at is the ones that are out there right now, I'm seeing you have to provide for me. He better be 6 foot tall, make 6 figures, have 6 inches packing, you've all heard the 3 6s, and I think there's even some more out there. Requirements that you must meet. You must be kind, gentle, vulnerable, of course. All of these things must be met, which are really just transactions in order to even get to the part where I am willing to show my femininity and actually, date you, much less get to the point where there is a long-term relationship or commitment. Are you guys seeing some of the same things out there? It's pretty stunning to me. Maybe in the future, there won't be any marriage. Yeah, but I could see a big problem in the fact that there's this sense right now with our women that only a few percent of the men are even attractive enough to date, much less marry. It seems to me that's going to crash our population eventually. What do you guys think, Glenn?
Yeah, it's funny because I just saw this meme, and it was this girl's dating profile. Now, let me just say this girl was about 200 pounds over my weight. Okay, she's a big girl, and she had the list of the 6 6s, like 6-pack abs, 6-inch dick, or member. I already said it, so it's already too late. Bigger bank account, at least 6 feet tall. I forgot what the other one was. I don't know. But anyways, it was ridiculous. I'm just like, what on earth makes you think that a guy would want, that had all those things, would date you? Like, it's not even about like what you bring to the table, but just by looking at you, you look like the Pillsbury Doughboy. Why would a guy that had 6 abs, who cares about his fitness, who has good money, who cares about his investments, why would he want to invest in you? It just didn't make sense to me. I think there's a level of delusion that modern women have, and I think a lot of it is due to social media. I mean, you get a girl on social media, there's always going to be a beta orbiter out there, even for the ugly ones, that get all these guys in their DMs, inflating their ego, and they have this false sense of reality of who they really are and who really wants them.
Oh, sure. Guys are so thirsty for that connection because, for any touch of femininity, a man he desires that. I mean, that's a primary driver, right? So back to that return on investment with modern women, let's just set the stage. So, like I'd mentioned Aaron Clary in the Book of Numbers, what it costs for a man to his explicit cost with a woman, age 18 to dying upon 78. He gets married one time for 20 years. What is the explicit cash expenses? Now, he did the actuaries on this. So this is the actual numbers from a few years ago. On average, that was going to cost that man $260,785, not counting a divorce, for maintenance and disposal of a woman. That's his cost, okay? Now, of course, if there's a divorce, it could be much, much worse than that. But, you know, the opportunity cost, if he took that $260,785 and invested it in the S&P index, well, just to give you an idea, at an 8.64% return over the course of that lifetime, would have yielded $9,424,311 more than the $260,000 that you spent for that woman. What is the return on investment? Now, if she's a fantastic trader in the crypto market, it might be really good. But isn't that kind of playing the exceptions? And we know how that goes. Doesn't break the rule. So here we are, actually breaking numbers down. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And then you could go even further. What does the actual sexual marketplace look like for marriage age women today? And it's pretty stunning because, you know, many of them are chasing careers. 40% of them have tattoos, more than 6 tattoos. You know, 80% are financially impaired with tons of student loans today. 40% have more than the 6 tattoos. A minimum 1 in 4 be treated for mental illness. That means medication and treatment, counseling. Worse, there's unknown, but a significant percent of them are faking it for attention, right? So if you're the average Joe and only 2% of them are interested in dating you, think of it this way. That's still 100% of the men still want that feminine involvement in their life. They're so hungry. They will get it from those big corn-fed beasts that are out there right now that we call 49ers. Fours that think they're 9s, and that they deserve somebody who worships the ground they walk on to the point of, you know, providing for their lifestyle with them not having to do anything. So that's kind of the stage that's set for the return investment. So I'm going to have a hard sell. And that's coming from a guy that has a successful 30-year marriage. And my return on investment is definitely the exception because that woman ran a online retail business for me that I created it to the tunes of many 6 figures. So it was kind of old school. Hey, we're getting together. No matter what we earn out of it, it just comes to both of us. There's no tit for tat. What do you guys think? Afi, thanks for joining us, man. Sure appreciate it. We're talking return on investment, modern women.
What's up, Afi?
Wow, you're muted.
What's going on, guys?
How you doing?
Oh, good.
As far as the return of investment on the modern woman, you got to understand what it is that you want first. A lot of guys don't understand that other than the sexual thing or the companionship, they don't know what they really want. I'm talking about as far as attributes. Do you want a kind woman? Do you want a woman who's a go-getter who can make plays without you? Do you want a super sexual woman? Do you want a funny woman because you're a down and out kind of guy? When you figure out those things, then you understand what to invest and what to expect to get back. You feel me? So that's how I feel about it.
Yep. I totally get that. Now, one thing I wanted to consider, Afi, you're a single man and you date.
Yeah.
And you just saw the cost. That doesn't even include the cost to date. So to date and actually find maybe that 4.5% out there that's marriageable, and then to take that marriage on, I could see dating could be, you know, rather expensive if you were to go on a date a week. And I'm not sure that many men actually do that are single actually go on 1 date a week. Well, what is your experience, Afi, with that? And Mark?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Dating is expensive if you make it. Excuse me. Dating is expensive as you make it.
Okay.
If you understand women's attraction and desire, then you kind of know how to cut corners. So let me give you an example. So an average guy, he sees a chick, he likes her, he wants to have sex with this woman. So what's the go-to? Spending time with her. You want to spend time with her, you set up the date. Now, if that man doesn't understand his true value, he's going to lead with the date. You see, let me take her to this special place because then that'll put me in better chances of having sex with her or companionship, right? But when you understand desire and just what women want out of you, then if I meet 5 girls, I can meet one girl, I can say, she's like blase, blase with me. Okay, well, boom. We're just going to take a walk. She doesn't necessarily got to know that I picked up on her interest. That's just kind of like just throwing rocks at the wall, and maybe you hit. Maybe when we take that walk, she, I may break the ice, and then the interest will raise. But then if I meet a chick who's number 2, she's high interest. Well, then boom, she could just come straight to the house and cook for me, right? So that second date, I'm not even paying for. Then we got the third one. Third chick, she's high interest and I'm high interest too. So then I might want to actually enjoy something with her. You know what? I'm going to play golf. Instead of going by myself, I'm going to tell her to come with me. So now I'm not spending that much money then, but I'm having a good experience with a chick who I have interest. She has interest in me, but I also have genuine interest in her too. So that means, so when you both have interest, sex doesn't have to happen on the first date. Sex, you want sex to happen on the first date because the interest is only how hot they are. If you truly see potential in a woman, you're not mad that you don't hit because you see potential. You see?
Yeah, I can see that. But that desire better be there, the want.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I understand exactly where you're coming from. I think that it's so much easier, though, to spend that money. And you can see this with I know we're not supposed to say it, but there's this mass of simps. We know what a simp means, not simps, simp. We know what that means. It means, a sucker immortalizing, mediocre P, right? And out of that, they're so hungry for this female companionship, they will get this from webcam girls on text. You can see this on Instagram. OnlyFans' entire structure didn't start out for that. It was for fans of sports, but look what it has become. Pay for attention from a female and fantasize about the sexual nature that's inherent with all women, that energy. Pay for a little bit of that energy, even though it's faked. And that is a hell of an investment right there. That's incredible. We don't want guys to be a simp. We want them to be simps. And that is superior intelligence mastering poon submission. Simps. Anyway, yeah, Lauren.
Now, would you like a bit of language lesson in Japanese? So I live in Japan, and Japanese are eminently practical people. And women have compartmentalized this for decades. When I first came to Japan almost 3 decades ago, they had something, for instance, they had the Mitsugu-kun. This is the simp that gives you presents. They have the Ashikun, the guy who drives you, the guy you get in his car, he drives you around. So I remember at the Ashikun, bring me the chick, to me, back then was the H-kun. H-kun is the guy you fornicate with. They have all lined up and they have all compartmentalized.
Interesting.
So Japan is just 10 years or 20 years ahead of, and it still goes on. So and it's known by everybody here.
Yeah, so, it's definitely hidden here or not talked about, openly. But I agree with it. It exists here just as much. Laugh out loud, Eric Von Weedle. Cheaper to visit the bunny ranch outside of Las Vegas. If you do the actual monetary exchange and you're dating in the wrong environment and you're spending money on OnlyFans and all that, yeah, that's going to be true. If that's you're in and out and you can take, you can relieve yourself. Sure, of course it's going to be something like that. And I don't fault the guy if he's in that position. I mean, I got different takes on that sort of stuff. I'm very libertarian that way. I don't live my life that way, but for sure.
So let me share a story.
Yeah, please do.
So I have this friend, and I'm gonna just call friend named Jeff. We're going to call him Jeff.
Yeah.
I told him that we're going to be talking about this. And he knows that we're all going to roast him. So he's expecting to be roasted. He's looking forward to it. This is a situation. Makes great money. Works in the oil field, right? Makes buco bucks. About, 10 plus grand a month, right? Nice truck, He meets this girl, right? And he wants to date her. And so the girl's down on her luck. She needs a vehicle. Well, he has a work truck that his company provides him that he's able to use. So he doesn't have to put miles on his truck. So what does he do? Gives her his truck to use, right? And she's down on her luck. She needs money for rent. What does he do? He helps pay her rent.
Sure.
Now, mind you, you would think that, okay, they must be dating, right? They must be like boyfriend, girlfriend, something. No. Okay, well, then the next thing is he must be like Afi and just smashing that all the time. That must be his number one. No. They only had sex for the first time in January. January, February, March, April. That's 5 months. It's been 5 months on a drought. And he's like, am I a simp? I'm like, yes, you are simping hardcore. And I was like, you're leading with your wallet. You're giving her all the benefits of what a wife will get to a woman that's not invested in you. And a lot of guys do this. A lot of guys overinvest in women, hoping to get them to commit, but they have no intentions or no reason to commit. If you are getting this, they're getting everything they want. So why commit?
Why buy the cow when you get the milk for free?
Exactly. And then they're also planning like mind you, she has kids. So not only she's down on her luck, he's also helping with her kids' graduation party. And I'm just like, dude, what do you not see how bad your situation is? I was like, you need to have a conversation with her. And, if you want a relationship, now this is what I told him. He said he wants a relationship with her. At this point, I think he should just be like, look, what are we? Because if we're not together, all this stuff needs to come back. Okay. But what do you guys think? How would you remedy this situation? What do you tell a guy that's overly invested in a woman that obviously indicating that she doesn't really want to be with you?
I'll comment on that. I don't know if you can turn that around, because he's so invested in her and he's took it to such a point where she is completely taken advantage of him. She knows it, and he even probably knows it. So to turn something like that around, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it'd be very difficult, if at all, because she has no respect for him, I would say, at this point. And if we back up to the marriage thing, what we started talking about, the investment and all that, actually marriage did not become an institution for love or romance or whatever, marriage for love, until about 150 years ago. Before that, everybody married for more or less monetary or security type reasons a long time ago. It just became this romantic thing within the last 100 or 150 years. I would tell my daughter, I want her to marry someone who can take care of her, someone who's good to her. And as far as return, now if you look at a marriage or a long-term relationship only in means of monetary gain, then that's a whole different thing from what you're getting. If you want companionship, or if you just want somebody to spend time with, or I have no problem paying for things if I'm getting reciprocated for it. Now, as far as going out and buying a prostitute, I guess I can say that here, a sex worker, we'll say it that way. That doesn't interest me, because once I pay for it, there's no challenge, or I don't know, there's nothing there for me. But I have been with women that I have taken care of, but they're taking care of me. if it ever got to the point, that includes wives and long-term girlfriends. But if it ever gets to the point where they're not doing their part, I give them an opportunity, but eventually I walk away because it's an unconscionable contract, whether it's written in a marriage or whether it's between just a verbal contract. Now, on return, my last marriage, I was 12 years, and I probably spent a lot of money on that because I went through a divorce, but I got 6 kids, and they're all with me and have been for the last 11 years. What kind of price can you put on that? You cannot really measure that in monetary gain. So, I mean, it's a wonderful thing to have those boys, to watch them grow, to have them working for my company. To me, it's a dream come true. It's what some people dream of and can never have, and I'm able to have that. So I'm very fortunate.
Now that is a tangible return on investment for sure. I've experienced that as well. You know, and who was it? Some comedian, was it Patrice O'Neill possibly? You know, it said about the sex workers. You know, you're not paying for the sex; you're just paying for them to go away. Yeah, I don't know about paying for sex, but I have paid some girlfriends to go away quietly.
You don't pay you pay to leave.
Yeah, pay him to leave, right? Pay him to leave without any drama. Just here you go, bye-bye.
There's a lot of guys that are in these situations where they get overly invested in a girl, hoping to get them to commit. And, you know, like I told him, I was like, look, dude, if she is not asking you what's the status of your relationship or your situation, she is not interested in investing in you. And I was like, if a woman is not investing in you, then you do not need to invest that much in her. Go ahead, Laurent.
This gentleman, a very simple analogy for this gentleman. He's paying for a bottle of water where he should be paying he should be investing how to build a well for himself.
Yeah.
And it comes from a scarcity mentality. I have to be with this one. I guarantee the minute he dumps her or the minute he puts her in competition with other chicks, she'll start to behave. All of a sudden,
Correct.
there'll be magnetic attraction. She won't. This guy won't be able to. I mean, he needs to put her in competition. He needs to invest in himself first. He needs to understand his value. He needs to, because he brings a lot to the table, but it's probably a lot of lack of confidence in himself. So money would be better investing. Like the first things first. Dropping the rent and book a bunch of consultations with Afid, Thor, and other people in the community to sort him right. And then he'll get a few things right. And then he won't need to spend any money on her. Get the truck back.
She is following her nature. And, you know,
exactly.
I would ask you, and I would probably predict, I'm just going to make this up because I don't know the situation, but it wouldn't surprise me having consults like that where he has idealized her to the length that he's actually defending her actions, yet he's concerned about the situation because he is not getting any fulfillment here. But if you were to consult with him and say anything bad about her, wouldn't surprise me if he's one of the first to defend it because he's built this ideology of her in his head and these emotions that he's attached to it, these connection emotions that he's attached to it without the sex. So he has no glue for this relationship, just the dream. He's in love with the dream. Is that close?
Yeah.
That's absolutely it. Like when I was talking, I was just like, dude, why? I was like, think about it this way. If you found another girl, no other woman is gonna be cool with you paying for some other chick's lifestyle. Okay? Is there gonna be like that as like you are not investing into yourself or into this new relationship? You know, you're investing into some other relationship with someone else it's not gonna go anywhere. But what would you tell a guy that would be in this situation? Like, what would you be your pimp chronicle words of wisdom?
Honestly, nothing. Tell you why. And I wrote this in the book, man. You cannot RP your friends. They got to come to you. You see, he's coming to you. He's not really. He's asking you for answers you don't have. He just want to talk about her.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can because say let's say this. Let's say Jesus gives you the answers. And you have the answers. You give it to him, and he drops the ball. Like they're not gonna follow, bro. Because if Jesus gave him the answers, right, and she changes the questions, where's your advice?
Boom.
Boom. See, it's over.
Yeah.
It's true. And until he hits rock bottom, like I said, you'll give him some good advice that may not paint her in a flattering light, and you'll see a subtle defense of her because he's built her up into that. He's not ready. He won't be ready. And this could be a really good thing for him to take this hit in his pocketbook. You know, this is a chance to see female nature as it is. He can actually see the playing field and see how the game is set up if he, gets whacked that far. Just for example, if you're out there and you're single, going once again to my good buddy's book, here's a percentage of population and looking at the women that are out there right now. And I'm not trying to be negative. This is just 100% real. Women today in the marriageable range, 59.6% are obese and overweight. 80.5% have a worthless degree, humanities, communications. Am I echoing with somebody?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah, let me try to turn some things down here. Where are we at? How about now?
Sounds
Better?
good from here.
Okay, good. Percentage that are financially delinquent, 31%. Feminist left identifying, 65%. Single mommies, 39.5. STDs, 25%. Mental illness is rated at 25%. And the average body mutilator, and that's anything more than 4 piercings and tattoos.
Yeah, it's hard to find a girl without tattoos. I'm not much for tattoos. I know some guys like them, but it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah, so if you added all that up and those were all deal breakers for you, what are you left with? Just about 2%. Not to discourage you, because women they're very communitarian. And what one woman does and appears to be successful with, or has a handsome husband, they're like, oh, she's doing it, it'll work for me. That's just how it's done. I mean, fads, they spread like wildfire with women. That's why all the fashion is all geared that way. The sales are all geared that way. It's because of that emotional thinking. But yeah, so he's not unusual to have a single mommy that is very good at probably giving him just enough to where he's hanging on a thread. And if I heard you correctly, he works in the oil field industry.
Yeah.
Well, that's a difficult one because he's high paid.
Yeah.
He's going to be 6 figures deep in, much like Powerline. The only difference is it's like the mine workers. We have a friend that's a mine worker. You're gone for 3 weeks at a stretch. This is nowhere near conducive to a good LTR at all, because, when you enter an LTR and things are really popping on all cylinders, you really have to protect that LTR. And by protecting that LTR, you are guarding her femininity against her own nature, and you're rewarding her for it. And you cannot do that in absentia. So there is no such thing as that long-term relationship that's actually something as strong as a day-to-day marriage or ceremonial marriage. Anyway, we can go into that in lots of detail, but he's kind of up against the wall there. So there must be some convenience there. But the sex thing, only having it once. How long has he been with this gal? A year?
Since January.
Oh, okay. So only 5 months?
So a little bit before January. I think since November. But they banged in January and haven't been since.
Well,
I mean,
well, as soon as he stops paying, she's gonna get the MPJ wafting in his area, So
well,
up again.
And this is also, I would say, really backwards advice, because I really don't ever think that the guy should ask the girl, where are we at in this relationship?
No.
Yeah. I think it's always the girl that needs to ask the guy. So what are we, But because he's so invested, I really think he needs to propose that question and be like, hey, so what's going on here? Are we going to be committed? Are we going to be a thing? And then if she says no, at that point, okay, give me my truck keys, figure out your rent. That's honestly what I think. That's the advice that I do.
I don't think she'll say no. She'll string him. She'll say something like, well, I'm not sure. I just need some more time, or she don't want to let go of that. I don't think. I don't think she'll say yes or no.
I told him the same thing, and I said, you need a. We've been hanging out for 9 months now. I've been paying your bills for 8 of them. You know well enough at this point. You know my paychecks well enough.
Oh, poor fella.
You know, this is it. Either we're together or not. And if we're not together, get these benefits no more. That's just me. That's the only way I could see him somewhat gaining some ground on either one, he finds out whether or not what her true intentions are. 2, he also gets back his property and he doesn't have to put out those resources for somebody that's not worth his investment.
Yeah, I think she's already showed him her true intentions. Myself, that's just my opinion.
Oh yeah, I think so too. But I think he's here for
him, yeah.
So if you're a young man that finds yourself in this, it's better to stay away from this thing as soon as you're not having sex. You have a dead bedroom. I mean, in reality, if she's really into him, she'd be waiting at the dock when he gets off of work.
Yeah,
and they will be in the parking lot having sex. I mean, that's just. I'm
And
sorry.
he's gone for 3 months at a time. So this guy feeds financial needs. What about the physical needs in between? So this guy might have a rude awakening someday and find out that, wait a minute, this is not my underwear.
yeah.
Seriously. Because if she's not banging you, she got to be banging somebody.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to go without.
No, in reality, she's ovulating every month. And if she's still, even, pre-menopause, she's still having those drives, and sometimes even stronger because they have that fear of missing out. They get that alpha rediscovery phase, right? Their kids are growing up and their body and their design is telling them, this is your last rodeo. You better get on that bull and perform.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to be so crass, but that's the reality of her physicality and the hormones that drive her mentality at that point. There's nothing wrong with that. That's their nature.
That would be the same thing as a long distance relationship, him being gone like that. I've had a couple of those. One was my last wife. She was from Latin America. We were married for 12 years, but that only lasted 3 to 6 months before she came up here. But now the last one I dated a couple girls from Colombia. The one I just went out with once, we went to the islands down there. And then the other one I dated for about a year. I'd seen her about once a month. We'd either go somewhere or I would come down there, but that doesn't work out too well because it just doesn't. Yeah.
Well, I think in my opinion, now I can say that I had a successful long distance relationship, but most cases, I think long distance relationships are an illusion. You think you're in a relationship, but
yeah.
Chris is in a relationship with someone else. And you're the visiting dick that she sees every few months. Long distance relationships are not realistic. They're like unicorns. They don't exist, in reality. But it's hard. There's a lot of guys, a lot of careers out there that guys go out for work for weeks on end, or military. They're deployed months on end. How would these guys have to control their frame and their relationship, especially during the absence months? I was in the military and I always tell people, if you're going in the military, don't get married. My brother didn't get married for a very long time in the military, met a woman in Romania. They fell in love. They live out there now. They have a great situation. But for the longest time, he was not dating. He was not seeing any girls. He was, banging them, but he wasn't dating any of them. Because I told him, look, there's these little terms. In the Navy, they call them boat hoes. All the women that are on the carriers, they may be married. Guess what? There'll be somebody's boat hoe during a deployment.
Mm-hmm.
Same with dorm hoes. There's always these girls in the dorms that are screwing around on their husbands while their husband's away, and they're a dorm hoe. So how do these guys that have these jobs that take them away from the family or from the household so long?
Well, I can tell you, but it's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people to hear.
Yeah, no.
It's the only thing I've actually seen work. Yeah, the only thing I can see in work is a kind of an advancing of and a reinforcing of female competition anxiety from the male's perspective. This is not overt dread, but it's very close to it, and it must be somehow. It has to have a pre-selection or a public social element to it, so that there is this. Well, let's just call it. I hate using dread, but there's a dread that she's going to lose her man. And you can't overinvest. Too many guys overinvest when they're away, and you can't do that. And I'll tell you, let me tell you a story. Yeah, I think we've all done the overinvest, and it backfires every freaking time.
Yeah, they lose interest.
They lose interest, and you do that when you're out of space. It's a bad thing. Better for them to see you in a public environment, just with beautiful women within 3 or 4 feet, and they're smiling. That's it. That's all you need. But let me tell you a story. I used to train occasionally some NPC bikini competitors, beautiful, beautiful women. Most of them were 30 to 40 years old. Almost all of them exclusively, when they actually competed regionally, would end up eventually getting divorces if they were married. They got a lot of attention. And as soon as they did, they had these great bodies and they want to explore them. And the guys never seen them coming, but I would see that they were married to guys that were overinvested, paying for their trainers, the whole thing. Basically, they're paying for the trainer that's going to end up banging them in the family bathroom at the 24-hour fit. Anyway, aside from that, what I would always hear, we would talk and I would listen, and girls love it when you listen, especially if you listen emotively. If you listen a little bit emotively, nod your head, you get them talking passionately, they will think you're the most awesome dude in the whole world, the most sensitive, caring guy that's ever existed in such a masculine body, and you're just so awesome without being gay. Okay. And it's hard for us to do. But what they will reveal to you is, I remember this one gorgeous regional champion. And she would say, I just don't understand it. I dated so-and-so, and then I had the guy that owns the nutrition shop. And, you know, all the money, he's good looking, all this. On the third date, he sent 48 roses, you know, with a bracelet, right, to her in the gym, in the middle of it, right? So he's flaunting, he's throwing money at her, he's overinvesting, and then he tells her, I think I'm in love with you. Okay, this is not uncommon, though. Guys will get a taste of the poon, little of the magic poon, juice will float through the air, and they'll, oh my God, you're the greatest. And it's text city, you know, paragraph by paragraph, how wonderful you are. How could you be in such a circumstance? I know you're getting a divorce, but the dirty bastard that you were with, how could a man ever treat you like that? I would never do such a thing. I was raised differently. I know better. I know you to your soul. I'll defend you to my death. This happens within minutes, basically. It's unbelievable, and to see the level of disgust that some of these women have for it. Now they'll take it at first, they'll take it all in, and they actually kind of have a scramble trying to get away from it, you know, because but it's very, very common.
Yeah, makes them very uncomfortable.
Common for men to do this, because the thirst is far worse than anybody actually realizes. I've worked with gals that are 40, 60 pounds overweight, and they're telling me they want a guy that will, you know, eat the peanuts out of their feces just to look at where it came from. You know, it's just sick. I mean, they think they're so there and they deserve these things without doing anything. And I've asked them, well, why do you think that is? Because I'm just that great. The egos, and it's obvious that they were trained since they're little girls that this is something that's on the agenda for them sooner or later. It's coming. Prince Charming will be there. And I think the guys play into that role. I'll be your Prince Charming, because they've heard it too.
I don't think guys how unattractive that is.
They don't. I don't think they do. And what you're telling about the overinvestment, I believe me, it is so super common. And couple that with the fear of approach anywhere, you know, to when actually a girl talked at me, oh my God, she might touch my pee-pee. You know, it's an amazing thing, right? I mean, yeah.
Well,
so
put it this way: if you were willing, the resources you had, you acquired. You had to work for them. Your time is valuable. Who you invest your time in matters. And if you're giving away your resources, you're giving away your time to every girl that waves at you. You are telegraphing to those women that your resources and your time is not that valuable because any broad could get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like guys need to realize that they need to have, be selective.
I find guys that I've been around that have done this, most of them do have trouble approaching, even if they're handsome, own stuff, they have trouble getting, and they have a standard too, and their standard is not necessarily being a simp to any woman, but they have what they expect. And when that comes close, it's, they have a lot of nerves and they don't have much experience, and then they dive full headlong into it, and we end up hearing from them.
Well, no, also a lot of these guys have these covert contracts. They think if they do these things, that return that they're going to gain this woman's love, and what you're going to gain is her love for your investment in her, but her love for you. And a lot of guys, here's another thing: a lot of guys get so hung up on the love that they overlook the respect. Key. Respect is more important than love.
Respect precedes love.
Exactly. Laurent, I saw your hand up, bro. You want to say something?
Absolutely. I mean, guys, for guys, respect is everything. You don't need to love somebody to respect him, but you can't love somebody you don't respect.
I agree.
Now, since we talk about return on investment, would you mind hearing my take, a statistical take on marriage? I mean, statistics is what put wine in the fridge for me, or what other people say, bread on the table. So would you like to hear my take? It's a purely statistical, dry take on it. Would you like to hear it?
Sure.
Go
yes.
ahead.
Okay. So the idea there is people focus on the divorce rate. It's not actually the important variable. The way to look at it, I always look at two sides, the lender and the borrower. So what matters is who gets custody of the children. Usually, it's the mother, right? So at 90% rate. So imagine you're going to get married. Now, the most important equation in finance is gain expectancy, what is called trading edge. Trading is what I do for a living. So always look at strategies in terms of trading edge. So this is very simple. This is how many times you win versus how many times you lose. And when you win, how much you win on average versus how much you lose on average. That's it. So far, so good, right? So what is important there in the win rate is who files for divorce. And women files at 60%. Why is that? Because they know that at 90% of the cases, they can get custody of the children. Now, when was the last time you heard somebody, I got divorced and now I'm kicking back beers, watching Netflix and having barbecues with the guy while my wife is pushing a cart by the side of the road? It doesn't happen, right? The person who keeps custody of the children keeps the house. So there's a concept called marginal utility here. So there's a natural incentive for the person to file, for the person who keeps custody of the children to file. If it was the man, it would be the man. If it's the women, I'm not blaming women here. These are rational economic agents. If men had the same opportunities, they would do the same thing. So that leaves us with, on the win rate, you have 70% of 70% of divorces are filed by women, which means that it's outside the control of men. Women can file a divorce because they met some dude, or women can file a divorce because they have a promotion at work and things go sour, whatever the reasons. But it's outside your control.
Correct.
So 30% of the cases, win rate for men. So that's minus 0.7, that's already negative. Now, when we think about the consequences, what do you win on average versus how much you lose on average? Well, give or take, let's say if you stick together, let's give it a constant of 1. This is how things would progress along the way. If you lose, however, you lose 50% of your assets, and oftentimes more, because comes child support, alimony, and if you do what is called the net present value of alimony over time, it's a lot of money. So it's probably in the 60%. So on the loss side, you have 6 times 7 equals 42. And on the win side, you have 0.3. So 0.3 minus 0.42, it's minus 12. That gives us a negative gain expectancy. What it means is that it's a bad deal for guys, statistically.
Yeah.
And wait, it's not over then. It's not over. So these statistical strategies in trading, in investing, these statistical strategies that have a negative gain expectancy have a statistical property called certainty of ruin. You will go broke. So you might be the outlier like Thor, who's a role model for every guy. Every man wants to have an LTR working with kids and so on and so forth. But statistically, this is not a good proposition for guys. So women behave as rational economic agents, and I can't blame them for that. No one can blame them for that. They do what is best for them.
Agreed.
But
Absolutely.
you can't blame them for that. But men, when they do, must think about what is best for them, the logical conclusion is marriage is a bad deal. Don't get married.
Yeah.
And then women, until the incentives are in their favor, they don't need to. So like men are commitment phobic. No, they're not. Men commit to everything. Like even our conscription, you send people to die, they die. Men commit to work. Men commit to a lot of things. But you ask them to commit to a raw deal. No, thanks. That was my two statistical cents on marriage.
No, I appreciate that. You really
Thank
bring
you.
it back into focus because you're right. Women follow their nature. And this is not a slam against them or a slam against the gal that's with your friend Glenn, because really she's a single mom. She has probably struggled. She has a lot to lose as a female, particularly an aging female, one that's probably, fear of missing out. She's going to end up with an empty nest situation. Who knows what her past is? And, the fear of being alone, all those things come into play. And, she is going to hedge your bets. Women are very good at doing this, and they do this from an early age where they will stack the deck against them. They will keep a couple cards folded and try to get those up their sleeves. That's the beta orbiter guy that does some provisioning for her on the promise of poon, right? And or an occasional poon. They're kind of there backing it up, the situation in case the main guy gets killed on a hunt or something like that. And or they will be on standby until something better comes along, keeping them at arm's distance. That, to me, is nature. That is female nature. Without that strong man, where she can't think of anything else, and then he maybe will allow her to take second fiddle. That seems to work really well. But no, not to take anything away from them. The women are going to behave like that because they kind of have to.
Well, it's funny when I think about my buddy situation or other guys in this similar situation. What it shows me is that in the female's eyes, they are not the best option. Because if they were the best option, the woman would cling to them, would want a relationship, would want them to get invested in them, invest for the things that Laurent just explained, because they would want that security, that sense of security. And in her mind, that my friend, and these other guys must not be the best option that these women see. So they're just keeping them close at bay, hoping that a better option.
Yeah.
They can't be the best option, right?
Provider.
Until they put themselves or make themselves the best option, until the guy levels up and does the work, you're not going to get a woman to want to commit to you the way that you want her to commit to you. So I think there's some growth for guys in this situation. You need to realize if you have a hard time getting a woman to commit to you, you have to realize that must mean that you may be lacking in areas that you need to work on yourself and level yourself up. Because if you can't get women to commit to you, there's a deficiency somewhere that you have in some cases.
Well, I'd like to make a point about we were talking about women like taking this woman, say, taking advantage of this guy or him allowing her to, or however you want to phrase it. Back in my day in the 60s, well, I was in the 70s, when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, women would not take things from men, gifts and things, like they will now. If they did take them, they were seriously interested in the guy. And the women that did take things, which was very rare, from a guy she wasn't going with, so to speak, they were considered 304s. It just was very rare and very uncommon. But now it's almost glorified to talk about, to even get on social media and talk about what you can get out of a guy without actually, like what's going on here with the guy, without actually giving him anything. They just, you know, they brag about it. So, and I'm not bad mouthing the women because the guys are allowing it to happen. The man is the one who leads, and if he's allowing that to happen, then, you know, who can?
No, I hear you for sure.
Yeah, you can't blame the girl on this. You can't blame women in these situations at all, because if the guy is everything to her and being mad at the outcome, but still giving everything to her, why blame her for it? You know, if I gave you $1 million every single day, and then ask you, well, hey, well, how can we be best friends? You're like, no. How can I be mad at you?
Women and men are so different, though. If more than likely in a transaction like that between at least in my situation, people who have done things for me, and of course not ask anything in return, I usually do things for them too. It's almost, men are more reciprocal in situations. Of course, there's no sex involved, usually in heterosexual men, but that's what I've experienced. When someone does something for me, another male, then I want to do something back for them, and it's a reciprocated thing. Now, I don't have to, they don't ask me, but I do. And if I don't do something back from them, or if I can't, then I'll do something for someone else down the road. So we have a different thought process on that than women do, because I guess for eons they had to do that for their survival. So in them, it's still imprinted that it's okay if this guy's going to give me, and I really don't owe him anything, or I don't have to do anything back for him because they're supposed to be taking care of me anyway. I think that's ingrained within women.
Yeah, I would say I definitely agree with that.
Laurent.
So to come back on your friend Jeff, I bet you that the lady is with, she's miserable. Susan Venker used to say the best way to make a woman miserable is to give her everything she asks for.
And she will resent the man too.
Exactly. So they need to earn it. And as Mark said, in Japanese, there's something called giri. When two guys give, when somebody gives us something, there's notion of obligation and respect. By giving and not demanding in return, you build trust, you build a relationship, you build obligation. This is how we function. Like, for instance, the best deals that I've ever got in my business were because I gave without thinking beforehand. So I built trust. So the person gave me, give you an example. I mentioned it in the money seminar the other day. There was a friend who was very wealthy individual. And he was in France at that time. He was in the Hotel Georges V. And through the concierge, I sent him a double magnum of champagne. And he never knew where it came from. But then he learned it was from me. What did he do? When he came back to Japan, he threw a deal at me. Right from the get-go. It cost me $300 to get a few $100,000 deal. Hey, it's not bad, right? But I did it altruistically.
Yep.
I did it because I value him. And for him, he said, okay, this is cool. I trust him. You're a member of my tribe now.
Mm-hmm.
But you do that to a lady, she's got you throw a double magnum, man, you're not gonna be there when she enjoys it.
Yeah, you did it without any expectation of a return, and that's a very good thing to do. For sure.
Let me give you my perception of the golden rule. You all know what that is. The golden rule in regards to women. As far as men goes, treat men the way you want to be treated, or we treat others the way we want to be treated. But with women, as far as the golden rule is, I believe you should treat women the way they want to be treated. And that is not the way men want to be treated. And that's where people or men make mistakes. They treat women the way they think they would like to be treated, but women do not like to be treated that way. The same as us men treat each other, like what Loren was talking about. What he did, I've experienced that. I've done that myself. But if you did that to a woman, she would almost be like, it would be different. It would be a different response. Maybe one of resentment or suspicion or taking you as a weak person or supplicating to her. As men do not do that amongst each other.
Oh man, that's a really good point. I love that. Thanks, Mark. You know, I see that as a huge problem, and it's probably an internal problem. Men have this issue, and women have this issue, and men have the issue when they approach women of thinking that the women think and love exactly as they experience it and as
Yeah.
they process it, and they do not. They don't even come close to it. And it's so foreign to think that this human being sitting next to you that's the different sex can't think and feel it the same way. And yet for her, you cannot experience it the way she does and the way
Right.
she expresses it. You can't. And so there's a disconnect there. It's a beautiful thing because when you recognize it, it kind of softens the blow and allows for a better connection. But in the meantime, this can cause quite a bit of friction,
Yeah.
you know. And we can have masculine women over here that aren't very attractive. We can have feminized men trying to, hey, I'm just following the program that everybody says I have to. But the program is not getting them anywhere.
Yeah. Afi, I bet Afi's got something. He's sitting there not thinking. You got something on that, don't you, Afi?
Nah, you know, I'm just used to moderating. I don't just like hopping in conversations. Just to start
No worries.
you know.
Oh, I got a question. I got a question for Afi and for Mark. You guys, I mean, both of you are kind of getting a bit more seasoned in life. And when you were growing up, how much actual education did you get on how to be social or how to actually interact with the opposite sex? I know how much I got. It was like, don't be a bad boy on the playground. That's about it. Don't hit the little girls.
Afi, you want to go ahead?
For me, I educated myself. I found interest in certain things, and I did my own research. Like I said in the chat before, I don't remember who asked, but they said, "What did you study for like game?" And I told them, wrestling for mouthpiece, pimps for mindset, and vampires for seduction. I wanted to understand control before the sex shit was even. I just watched these people do these things, and I'm like, I want to do it too. I want to try it too. So I taught myself. I didn't wait for somebody to pull my coat, and part of that is me not having a father growing up. So I always sought after older guys to help me, and on top of that, I still needed to like look visually at things to make the connections myself.
Afi, was it an epiphany? Was it an epiphany or did it grow on you to get there? I mean, did you have kind of a realization or was it kind of over time?
I don't know, bro. I was an advanced learner. Like for instance, when I was a kid, elementary school, a lot of women like me. I was the skinny guy with the big Bambi eyes, the curly hair, and the bugle boy fits. And I used to like to draw, and I used to like to ride my bike. And I realized then that women would pay me attention when I didn't pay them that much attention. And I made that connection then. So even like now, like it's sculpting and stuff like that. But I've always put my priorities into my hobbies because it makes me happy. So I was a happy guy before the dating even got involved in my shit.
I
And
bet
so
that made a huge difference.
yeah, and so I figured that out. Just like with the sex thing, like once I realized that women like sex, that changed my game because I didn't understand that concept. I literally thought that men were the ones that had sex, and then that when women like you enough, they let you do that. I didn't understand that women be, ooh, you've already been 2 weeks. Like I didn't make that connection. I just thought that a girl is like you, like, okay, so I like him so much, I'm gonna give my body to him. I didn't know that they desired it the same way that we do. And it took me a little while to figure that out because when I started dating and having sex, I thought that dating was the answer and the steps to sex. That's why I would do it. I'd meet a girl downtown Oakland, and I would just, okay, I got to talk to her on the phone. I gotta, go to sleep with her all night, all that. You know how I used to be talking on, yeah, and get on my seduction mode and be falling asleep, be have my feet all on the wall and all of that. And then, go to their house. They come to my house. We go on a date or two. And then after like 5, it's going down. You know what I mean? Like I would even have it programmed to like, I'm going to bring up the sex talk after the 3rd time we hang out, because that's what I watched my brother do. My brother was a serial relationship guy. So he would be in very intense relationships, and I would just watch him on the phone, but he never said, "Hey, bro, this is how you do it." I just watch him. I'd be like, "Well, he's getting sex, and this is what he's doing, so that's what I do." And that's how I do it. That's how I did it. And I don't know.
Perfect. But one thing you said, man, I love it, is you did the work yourself early.
Yeah.
I believe that the exposure that young men have today and what they're being taught is appropriate to attract women is the wrong things. It's the easy way. It's the little fantasy, kiss the frog, he turns into a prince, you'll live happily ever after. If you do the simping or white knighting things, often he says, I taught myself. There was an up and down. I bet the day you discovered that women actually have a hell of a sex drive when you unleash it was a hell of a day when you discovered that.
It changed my life. I'll never forget. I put it in my book. It was the first time that I met a woman, and we talked on the phone, and she told me to come to her house the next day. When I came, and I'm in high school, and she was in high school too. So it wasn't, I did date older girls in high school, but this wasn't one of them. And I went over there, and she had lingerie on, and she served me, and we had sex. And I almost malfunctioned for a minute because I'm very analytical, and I'm like, I had sex, and she gave me some head and all of this, but I didn't do the steps. Like, how is this? I thought I was supposed to, like, because when I meet a girl, I'm already watching her behavior, and I'm already putting together in my mind what version of myself I'm gonna show her. And then so I went over there, it went down, and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't go through it. So I'm like, well, was I lucky? Or are there more girls I can have sex with without the steps? And then I found out that I didn't have to do that. And I said, okay, cool. Now I can ration out the things that I thought were the priority things. I can ration those things out, because all women, they don't like it. They don't need it. You know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying. I didn't have nobody teach me. Just like right now, I'm being taught social status, because they didn't have social status when I was young and growing up. So I just see that when women see you in the light, like if I meet a woman and she's watching my channel and she sees me command presence, and she hears everybody call me king, she looks at me a different way and interacts with me a different way. And I figured it out. So now, okay, boom. So now I know what to show her. So I don't hide my shit. Like, hey, when I cold approach online, hey, I got a podcast. I know they're gonna look at it. And they can Google me too. And then the next time I talk to them, we talk in a different language now.
Yeah. I love it. Hey, we've got 30 people in the chat room now. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate that. Everybody hit the like button and subscribe. I mean, we got more of these in the pipeline. It's going to be a lot of fun coming up this summer. The Elders Council will be rotating guests in and out, going to different topics, always trying to keep a positive spin on things. And if anybody in the chat has a burning question about over-investing in women, because I think that men definitely have the tendency to do that. We've been taught to do that. We've been taught to do it early on. Think of all the rom-coms, where the guy is kind of the bumbling idiot, but man, he's right there to commit. And the woman's kind of portraying the stoic nature. It's reverse. It's 180 degrees opposite of what actual reality is, because that's actually funny. When they reverse that, it's funny. It's a romantic comedy. They reverse it to make it funny. That is not reality. So
have you guys ever heard, what they say now? They ask the men, when are you going to put a ring on it? Better put a ring on it. Back when I was a kid, it was exactly opposite, because we had the show last night. We talked about the difference between women then and women now. And it was a prerogative for women back in the 60s, 70s, and maybe early 80s to get a man. Now it's like completely turned around, where the men are chasing the women and trying to tie them up and get them to commit. I mean, so it's completely reversed, and it doesn't work.
Let me ask you a question about that, because I think you have some good insight, Mark. You have a daughter.
Yeah.
She's seeing all this. She's a teenage daughter, right?
15. Yeah.
15 going on 30, I would imagine, in her own mind,
Yeah.
right? I've had a
She's-
daughter too. My
she's-
daughter's 33.
Yeah, she's very disappointed in the option she has out there.
Okay. Aside from the
Because
options she has, she's
Okay.
looking at these gals going through their 20s, the party phase. She's watching the epiphanies. She's seeing them all strike the wall. For fear of missing out, striking them as they lose their agency because of what they've been taught. Unfulfilled women now entering their 40s, trying to have their alpha rediscovery phase in a desperate bid to, and the name of, or in the quotes of Kevin Samuels, not die alone, you know, with a dog and a box of wine.
Right.
So what does she think of all of this? She's obviously observing it.
Well, I'm teaching her to, of course, to value herself and not follow the narrative of what you just talked about. Go out there and have your party in your 20s. You have plenty of time to get a man and this and that. So she's observed us talking about it, and she observes her brothers who are pretty masculine. They follow the ways we talk about. So what happens to her is when she's going out now, she dates, of course, and these guys I don't guess we talked about it here. We talked about it on the show a couple of weeks ago, my show here. How many of the guys actually, 5 or 6 of them have cried for her, and it's just they don't know. She says she meets them and they seem real alpha and strong at first, but in a short time they're confessing their love, like someone spoke about earlier. So she's really kind of discouraged about finding. Of course, she's only 15, but she wants to get find a man when she's in her early 20s.
Sure,
but it's just it's kind of sad for her because there's no young men out there. They're very rare.
They're taught to be vulnerable, and it's got to be terrifying for her.
Yeah, and cry in front of her and profess their love, or they'll say they're going to. I don't know if I better not say it. They say they're going to. How do I say? Delete themselves. Yeah, and because she's like not wanting to go out with them anymore because they're simping out, for lack of a better way to say it. So yeah, she's hopeful, of course, and I think she'll find somebody, and she maintains her value, which I've taught her what the up and downside of living whatever life you choose to live. Of course, ultimately it's her choice. Mm-hmm. So at least she has the knowledge. For a lot of young women don't, and a lot of young men don't know, and that's why they're acting like what they're acting like, because nobody's there to mentor them. I had a mentor. I was fortunate, an older guy, and I watched, kind of like Afi said, I watched him operate on the telephone. I watched him with women, and I'm sure I asked him some questions too, and he wasn't really a very attractive man, but yet he had a way with words. And I learned from this guy. So that's how I learned how to deal with women. But I have to say I've regressed sometimes, and I've overinvested and reaped the consequences of such things. I think it's easy for us to do sometimes because we start getting emotionally invested. And like you said, Thor, I've had a tendency in the past to not follow that 2/3 rule and give too much because they're giving so much to me and I reciprocate too much. And then they start losing interest. As where with a man, where I have a business relationship or a friendship, I've had guys do so much for me and I did so much for them, and it doesn't work that way with them.
Yeah.
The respect does not diminish. But now, if you tell a girl this and tell them that's the way it happened, they'll deny it, that they would ever be that way. But that's just the way it happens.
I agree with all of that. That's awesome. Does she want to be a wife and a mother someday?
Yes.
Good. Afi.
Yeah, I gotta do this interview real quick offline. So I wanted to just drop something to piggyback off of what Mark said. Now, everybody doesn't have to agree with me, but I want to give people who listen to think about, because you said the daughter thing, and if you follow me on the gram, I just went to my niece's gender reveal, so she's having a daughter, so it's kind of like fresh on my mind. I just went to her fiance, which is all cool. So if I had to have a daughter, if I had a son, we having a different conversation, and even that would depend on what kind of kid he is. Because just because I'm this way, I might have a feminine son. You just don't know. But if I had a daughter, the main thing I would want to teach her is value how a man treats her. Okay. Now, what I'm saying is women usually raise their kids wrong. Now, we all know on this panel that men and women love differently.
Mm-hmm.
They have different forms of loyalty. So, like for instance, like women are quick to cut off a man because he cheated. And they have an idea, perception, feeling like when you cheat on the woman, it's the same thing that she feels when she's doing it. We can literally have sex with a chick today and it can be fire too, but tomorrow we don't think about her, right? So sometimes women are losing out on men that really love them because they're exercising their options when in reality, 90, I say 80% of men that are high value with options, they exercise them. The woman may not find out about it, just like any celebrity. Celebrities exercise their options, but they're not really willing to trade in those finer, better women for their lady, for their baby mother, for all of that. And so some women, what happens is they lose out on good men, or they'll fire that situation and then find a man who will treat them good with less options, but don't make them feel like a woman. And they don't do it for them. And that man may put them on a pedestal because they know that that's the best that they can do.
Mm-hmm.
But that'll make the woman feel good long term. So I would teach my daughter, think about how that man feels you. If you have a man that's into you, stick with him, because you're gonna fire him and be like, you disrespected me, and then you're gonna go be single again. And women break up their families, bro.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of women that break up their whole families because of stuff like this, and then their other options aren't as good, and then their value goes down because they've done it one time, they've done it two times, and now they got two. Now it's gonna take a certain type of guy to take on that responsibility of a woman and her two kids and two baby daddies when she could have just stuck with the one that she had. So I'm gonna leave it there. Press one. This is something for y'all to think about. Appreciate you for. Shout out to Glenn, Laurent, Mark. You guys, make sure you follow me on Instagram, International Oppie Kingdom, and follow me, Oppie Kingdom Books. And obviously, Oppie Kingdom is a YouTube channel. Y'all have a blessed day. And think about what I said.
Take care.
For sure.
Love you, nephew. See you next time.
All right, man.
All right, Oppie.
Right on. Hey, I got a question that came in. I'm gonna toss it to Glenn. Glenn, let's talk to Eric a little bit about this. I think you have some knowledge here, and this is interesting. He wants us to explain a little better on how giving into them makes them miserable. This is not exclusively female, by the way.
No. And here I'm going to give an analogy that has nothing to do with women. Okay. Now, if I was a millionaire or a billionaire and my kids inherit my kingdom, they do not understand the value of what their inheritance is. And they're going to be miserable because they don't have to work for anything. Mm-hmm. They don't understand what it takes to appreciate things. If everything's given to them, they don't understand the sacrifice that was involved in it. Same thing with a woman. If you give a woman everything without her having to earn it to some degree, she's not going to appreciate it, and she's going to be miserable because she has everything, but she gets no joy from it. And you have to understand that, like, it doesn't have to be a woman, it could be a man. There's plenty of men out there that's the same way, that are miserable. I mean, most celebrities that I know that are well off, very rich, I mean, look at Robin Williams, for instance. Man was a legend. Made millions of dollars. Great movies. Miserable. Took his own, self-deleted himself. So, I mean, you can't expect that if you give everything to a woman, that she's going to be happy. The whole thing, happy wife, happy life, is like, seriously, Eric, or any other guy that's listening to this, happy wife, happy life is a lie. Okay, it's
statistically, no wife happy life is a better proposition.
Wait, guys. If you actually look at it, it's good wife, have a great life.
Yes, good wife, have a great life. Happy us. It can't. Don't put it on once. And here's the funny thing that even in that saying, and I'm going to go back to what Mark was saying about women were once trying to get the guy to commit to them and put a ring on it, and now guys are playing the woman role and trying to put a ring on it. Okay, it's funny is that back then women saw the value of having that man, and they respected his value. Men have diminished their own value. And these are the guys that are willing to give everything to a woman, and pine after these girls, ready to be simps for all these girls, because they don't care about their value. And women don't like men that don't appreciate their own value.
Yeah,
great point.
That's it.
You're not going to value them.
Yep, that's exactly what it is, because when you invest at that level, they don't have any value in you, because you don't have any value in yourself. You're willing to give it away without them having to earn any of it. And on an intrinsic level, no one will attach value to that at all.
Yeah.
And you could do that with children, spoiled children. Really, in a lot of ways, children and women emotionally operate in a very similar fashion. So while they might appreciate something on the surface, it wears out very, very quickly, because there wasn't any investment in getting whatever that is, attention or material items. The woman has to invest, and the way she invests is because that man has value outside of her, either to other women in particularly. I'm investing in this man because other women desire him so much, I must do so to secure my place. That's the most powerful. And then everything else will follow that for women and for men to many circumstances too. There's nothing better than building something or making something that was hard. And then you step back and look at it and go, I fucking did that. It's the same thing.
I got to bail, guys. So I got to take off. So
Mark, thanks for joining us. There's one more question that I'll get into, and then we appreciate it. So why don't you go ahead and wrap up and promote your stuff?
All right. Mark Daniels, Mark's Inspiration on YouTube, of course. And then my Instagram is Mark's Inspiration. Check out my website at marksinspiration.com. You can find my books. I got 2 published books on Amazon. And if you need some extra help, I can help you out there. And I'm going to take off, guys. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Take it easy, Mark.
I'm gonna talk about this one right now, and I want you guys to jump in too. This is Bruce Leroy. Before we end today, so is there really any return on investment? I'm starting to feel like there is not. Yeah, it's easy for us to put numbers in place, and it looks pretty freaking bleak today. The statistics do make it look like it's an uphill battle. But I'll tell you what, when you have to work harder, when you have to outcompete, when you do, it's going to be, the victory is so much sweeter when you go through that valley of hell and climb out the other side. So the return on investment is really a much more esoteric. It's less tangible. But like was said before, the children that you can obtain from these unions. And here's the other thing. You're going to have some good times. You're going to have a connection if it's done right. You do it even half right, you're going to have some of that very deep, passionate connection that you really don't want to trade for anything. And that's experiences in life. What cost do you have on that? That's definitely a return on your investment that you would find very difficult to put a dollar value on. Of course, you can on everything, basically on opportunities lost. But overall, there's reasons for men and women to be together, and the primary one is we're better together than we are apart. And one of the things I wanted to get with Mark about, I didn't get the chance, was he has this young woman who is seeing this go on. And one thing I know for certain is that younger generations look at the older generations, and they often look around and say, they're all fucked up, we know better, and they choose the opposite. We saw it in the 60s, we saw it in the 80s. Whatever their parents were doing, or whatever their older generation was, they looked at it and said, I ain't doing that shit. I'm going to do something else. So here's all this thottery and sluttery. There's going to be women out there that say, yeah, I'm not playing in that game. And I'm going to use somebody's example, and I really don't know this person, but I'll put a plug out there. Real Femme Sapien. Allie, I think her name is. I saw her a few times. I don't know her. I've never talked to her. I'd love to have a conversation with her, but just listening to her and some of the background reading that she recommended from, back in my day, I was rather impressed with her. Her pragmatism has brought her to kind of a female understanding of red pill principles and how to get the most out of it for her own fulfillment, which I really have to admire, because that's really where my wife has sat for many years now. And I can see that that's quite good. And there's a couple others out there. So it's coming, just you got to get out there and you got to beat the bushes. So there is a return on the investment if you're willing to do the required work. And this is something I've often said. It was passed to me by one of my mentors, and it stuck with me. And what it is nothing works unless you're willing to do the work.
Intentions.
That's the return on investment.
One thing that is, I see the world in numbers. Everything to me looks in numbers. It's a curse and it's a gift. And we often blame women for not holding themselves accountable. But there's one way to do that. It's a backdoor way. Like, for instance, I always ask them, would you like your daughter to do this? Would you like your son to do this? Like, there was a fantastic question on Fresh and Fit. What is the maximum body count at which point you would slap your daughter? And all of a sudden it goes down one digit.
Yeah, of course, right?
Right. So I asked her the other day, like, I came across my wife as a hardcore feminist. You see the feminist principles that are marinated in the West, they also transpire everywhere else. And because this is what the world, they permeate everywhere around the world. So the other day I asked a woman who's hardcore feminist, and she's married, and poor guy. And I asked her, well, if it was your daughter, would you like her to get married? And she was, of course, but she has to be blah 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 blah. But the answer was, of course. When I said, well, about your son, would you like him to be married? Well, and then it was this long convoluted answer.
No.
Like, well, the answer was basically no.
She knows.
Exactly. They know that it's a raw deal. So the ROI, they know that for guys, it's a raw deal. All women know that. But for women, like, of course, you have nothing to lose about it. You choose the appropriately, don't get knocked up by the first bad boy, yada, yada. But these are like, just don't drive recklessly, don't drive drunk, don't do drugs, that kind of stuff, right? So it's just like the cautionary precautions. But beyond that, yes, of course, you should. But for when it comes to their son, no. Like, it was a flat out, like, very convoluted answer to say no thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Very good, Laurent. Glenn, you got some closing thoughts?
Yeah, I want to answer the question.
Okay.
The ROI. Now, I think a lot of guys look at the ROI as in the return of investment into the relationship. Well, part of that investment into the relationship is investment into yourself. So if you're focused on just keeping the wife happy, and you're not taking care of yourself, you're not leveling your game up, you're not progressing in your life. If you're letting yourself go, then you are doomed for failure in that sense. But if you are constantly maintaining that you're the best option that she ever sees, I'm going to tell you, this is really important about the ROI, because everybody looks at the ROI as pleasing the woman, but you also have to continue to please and level yourself up. That maintains your status in her eyes. And if you don't do that, and if you delegate, let her dictate whether or not your ROI is, because a woman's going to see, you know what, is this relationship worth it for me? He's not the best guy in the room anymore. I have better options. Then you have squandered your investment into the relationship because you failed to take care of yourself. So if you always take care of yourself, if you always level yourself up, if you always make sure that you are the best option in the room that she sees, then you're going to have a great relationship like Thor and have a great return of investment 20, 30 years down the road. But a lot of guys think the ROI is what they put into the relationship and not so much what they put into themselves and how they still have to invest in themselves as well as the relationship. And guys need to realize that you can't invest into the relationship if you have nothing to invest into yourself, because you are supposed to be a value, not just the relationship. You are supposed to be maintaining high value.
Good. Totally agree with that. I love the conversation today. I didn't want to be too down. I think there's a lot of positivity out here, because in order for all of us men and us young men to see a return on investment with modern women, we have to be better, because here's the axiom that I always use. A rising tide lifts all boats. Be that rising tide. And the women are the boats. You want to go, you lift it up. Doesn't mean overinvest, you know. But keep that in mind. I think that's great. Let's go ahead and start with Laurent. You got anything on the board you want to announce or talk about?
No, I mean, it was a fantastic conversation. In the beginning, I was a bit wary because I was afraid we would go into too much negativity, blaming women, blaming this, blaming that. But actually, I realized that we brought a lot of positivity. There's enough negativity out there. There's enough blame on either side, and we're not here for that. And Thor, I acknowledge you and applaud you for that, Glenn, and all the Mark and Afi. So thank you very much for today. Honored to be among the Elders Council. Thank you very much.
Glenn, what are you working on, man? You out filming right now?
Yeah, so we still doing the last final edits for the film Mind Dates. It's the first red pill dating movie. It's what we call a dick flick. It's not a chick flick. It's a dick flick. It's a romantic comedy, but from a male's perspective. We're picking up the last edits on that. Still fundraising for that. So if anybody wants to volunteer and donate, definitely reach out to me on Instagram or any other social medias that I'm on. Or hit up Thor. Thor will get you in contact with me. We're working. I'm actually working with Savo on some future.
Good.
Yeah, me and Savo connected. We're going to be doing season 2 together of Savo. So we're look forward to that. Filming this late summer, early fall, somewhere on that. But so be on here on the Elders Council, with Thor and Laurent and everybody else. Just every Sunday. Just stay tuned. We got some wisdom and some knowledge for you guys.
Yeah, thanks. That's fantastic, Glenn, and really appreciate you being on the show. I'm going to try to connect a little bit with Savo out there at the CME next week. We're not going to have a broadcast next week, but we will the following week. We'll be out in Miami at the Conference of Masculine Excellence, and I got an announcement today. It is sold out. All standing tickets are now sold out. I'll be speaking. Looks like I'll be the last speaker on Sunday, which is pretty fantastic in my book, and I am really looking forward to it. I'm going to tell my story about how I became a more durable man. We'll give you that. Awesome. We'll give you the story of how Thor actually held the lightning in his hands, and it did not feel good. And it put me on a righteous path.
Thor, so we're going to be shooting some of a couple episodes in Los Angeles.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. You're definitely going to be on there.
Yeah, make me some rotten evil bastard. I love it. My true heart will show, right? That's fantastic, guys. And of course, hey, everybody, appreciate you in the chat today. We really got a nice viewership coming along. We're growing every single week. Check us out on all the links in the notes. Come check out becomedurable.com. There's free content on there. All has a positive slant, guys, because that's what's really going to make the difference. You won't find us making hit videos. We might make fun occasionally, talk some shit, but that's just guy stuff. We're not really going to be hitting on anybody too hard, because it's really more important that we become that rising tide. So check that out. Keep in tune for us, and I am going to close the show out. Oh, if you're really, really watching this and you want more, check out Thor's Dragon Ship Monthly Mastermind. It's a monthly subscription. You get 3 hours of uncensored content in which you are completely interactive. In fact, you can present your materials and you can learn how to do the things that we've accomplished in our life on Thor's Dragon Ship Mastermind. Check it out on becomedurable.com. I'd love to see you join.
And if you guys have an idea for the
Yeah.
show, an idea for the topic, put it in the chat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let us
Oh,
know.
that's a great one. That's great. Absolutely. If you guys got ideas that you'd like to see the panel chop it up about, what you'd like us to talk about, particularly red pill items or manosphere type items that have not been addressed in this kind of open forum from a positive perspective, let us know. We'll do the research. We'll put it up there, and who knows, maybe we'll bring you on too as a guest. That would work out pretty well. Guys, till next time, Skull.